Yeah. Hello, everyone, and welcome in to Bleacher Report Wrestling Daily. I am Matt Camp. I am pleased to be with you here hosting this wonderful program. I appreciate the opportunity to do exactly that Monday through Thursday from 3 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern, or somewhere in that range. Thank you for being with me here on Bleacher Report or on YouTube. Whenever you're watching, I appreciate you. Believe me, today especially, I appreciate you. That's me. I'm Matt Camp. Follow me in those places. Let's talk about what's going on in pro wrestling, whether it be live here now, in the chat after. Hit me up with your thoughts. It's an all AEW show today. Woo, that came in hot, didn't it? This did not what my hair looked like yesterday, but that is part of this beautiful cosmetic business that we are in. Did you like that? I got to go back to this. What a beautiful image. Can I show it again? Let's look at this. I mean, look at this. Look at this. You know what this is, folks? I'll show you. This is posted by our good friends at AEW on TV. But AEW will be heading to the Echo Park Speedway in Atlanta. Look who's in that car. The Outrunners, hanging on for dear life. Who's back? Is that Harley back there? Swerve and Tony Schiavone riding shotgun. You can see what's coming up there this weekend. But very cool to be seeing that. That's a fun image. Reminds me of Kyle Petty driving the NWO car back in the day. Y'all remember that, right? Right? Of course you do. But that is, of course, coming your way this week. A little extra fun for AEW. Swerve. Oh, we'll be talking about Swerve on this program today. Promise you that. It was a very, very newsworthy AEW Dynamite heading into All in Texas. But in addition to that, we have a special collision tonight. So we're going right back to it. We'll look at some highlights from Dynamite tonight. From last night, I should say. We'll do some of that here on the show. We'll look ahead to Collision, and we'll talk about what now might be in the future for All in Texas. Because there were some, what I would call pretty interesting, pretty big happenings as it relates to All in Texas, as you would expect to happen. We weren't obviously that far away from it, but we are that much closer to it now. And well, let's get into the highlights of last night. Now, the show started in a very hot way. We saw the great, timeless Toni Storm opening the show with Luther, but she, as did everybody, got quite the what I would call rude welcome to AEW Dynamite last night. Let's go back to see how Dynamite got underway.
It was 1 week ago. Grand Slam. Wow, that timeless Toni Storm upset the celebration of the #1 contender, Mercedes Benitez. It is open season on the AEW Women's World Champion, timeless Toni Storm.
Is this what you wanted? You want to embarrass me, you stupid little bitch? Let's play!
And now Mercedes trying to make a statement at the expense of timeless Toni Storm.
Hey, Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, you guys are teaming up in a tag match tonight. It's in the second hour, and well...
Wait. It was 1 week ago. Grand Slam.
There we go. Sorry.
That timeless Toni Storm upset the celebration of the #1 contender, Mercedes Benitez. It is open season on the AEW Women's World Champion, timeless Toni Storm. Oh.
Is this what you wanted? You want to embarrass me, you stupid little bitch? Well, let's play.
And now Mercedes trying to make a statement at the expense of timeless Toni Storm.
Hey, Will.
All right, we'll come back to that in a second. So we'll get to the Bucks here and Ospreay and all that. Toni Storm has, I think for the most part, rarely been a step behind her opponents. Has she been attacked before by previous opponents? Has she been back on her heels? Sure. But always seems to be in pretty firm control, can rebound, does not let her take her down, almost fires her up more. I do believe that despite her very unique way of speaking to and getting to her opponents, as we saw, of course, on Collision, and we've seen multiple times before with Mercedes and Toni. But it does feel like that Toni's, I don't want to call them mind games because I don't look at them that way. I think they are more her always being in control of where things are going, the situation. Even if she's down, she's never down for long. But it seems like Mercedes is almost sick and tired of it. You know, how long they've avoided each other, obviously. If I am not mistaken, one of their first interactions only happened back in Boston when Mercedes beat Athena in the Owen. And Toni observed from, you know, the balcony level, if you asked her. But obviously it's only picked up more and more since Mercedes won the Owen, and this match we knew was coming. Look, All in Texas is a loaded card. You guys know that already. Looks like it picked up a bit more last night. But as I look at a match like this, and we will obviously also be getting to the rest of this as well as the Gauntlet. But as I look at a match like this and all the events that are going on and everything that is leading to All in Texas, as we kind of take a look at everything here, July 12th, we'll get into Moxley and Hangman. But we're talking here right now about Mercedes and Toni. And on a poster alone, this looks like a big match. You have the top two champions facing off. Not something we see in AEW every day. Not something we see quite often at all. But to have these two facing off at this level is... There's going to be a couple of matches, more than a couple of matches, that are coming together at, I'd almost say, the right time. When Ospreay faced Hangman in the Owen final, winner moving on to face Jon Moxley at All in Texas. When this match came to be, it happened because two guys in Hangman Adam Page and Will Ospreay were on different trajectories up, but never intersecting. And that intersection did not happen until the finals were set. And there was I call it a loose respect. But Hangman and Will Ospreay coming together when they did, that's pretty damn good pro wrestling to me. And Hangman winning that match and Ospreay going, that's got to be the guy that gets it done. It's a different way to explore the journey. It's not always about vanquishing your demons, vanquishing the past. Hangman has attempted to do a lot of that. Hangman has had to talk about what he went through with Swerve and house invasions and, turning against his friends, and now his friends turning against him. But to get to Jon Moxley, he had to win a tournament. And that's exactly what he did. That was about being the better man. And Hangman was that better man. And now he gets this match. And he feels like the best chance anybody's had to take out Moxley. Moxley doesn't seem to be treating him that way, but it feels like the momentum of Hangman only builds and builds. And as we will see a little bit later on, he has necessary backup. Not even necessarily to win the title, but to make sure, even though we will see he got beat up pretty bad last night, even though we will see that, he needs that backup to make it to Texas. Will he need that backup during the match? Odds are probably he will. But he's got that backup right now. And now, I mentioned about Swerve and Ospreay. Will's been trying to convince Swerve that we got to back Hangman, and it feels like in the last couple of weeks, there has been an understanding by Swerve because he has heard. He has heard it from Hangman's mouth. He's heard it from the Bucks. Hangman last week hits the buckshot looking for Mox. Takes out one of his old friends. Or is it? He said, hey, if you're not careful, I'll trap you in a house and burn it down. And Swerve heard all of that. And then, not to say Swerve and Hangman are friends or ever will be friends, and they probably shouldn't be friends. But I think Swerve got it in that moment. And as he has been a target of the Bucks and the Death Riders, he is putting his focus where it belongs. Let's get to that right now, because Swerve and Ospreay, we knew they were in tag team action, but how the match actually went down was not exactly scheduled.
Ospreay and Swerve Strickland, you guys are teaming up in a tag match tonight. It's in the second hour, and well...
Wait. No. I hope you're prepared because that match isn't later tonight. Oh, my God. It actually is right now. So go ahead and cue up Will Ospreay's music. Oh, wow. Jeez. That's tough, man. Gotta watch your back. Ooh, broke that. Whoa! Amazing. What timing, what anticipation. And what a brain buster. What a combination there by Swerve and Ospreay. And I think Swerve Strickland is poised to make a house call.
I believe we're all done with that power that you keep abusing. All in, Swerve, Ospreay, the Young Bucks.
What?
Put the EVP titles on the line.
What the hell? What? Oh, wait a second. Swerve Strickland, where did he come from? Oh, my God.
Now, before we get to Kota Ibushi, which is big in its own right, we talked a lot about Kota yesterday. It's one thing to be going after the Young Bucks. It's one thing to be going after the Young Bucks for the tag team titles. A lot of teams have had some of their best matches against the Young Bucks in AEW, pre-AEW, New Japan, Ring of Honor, whatever it might be, PWG. They've had great matches with Private Party or FTR against Kenny and Hangman years ago. But these Bucks are not about necessarily their great matches. They will tell you, and sometimes correctly so, as was mentioned by Taz last night on commentary, that they are the founding fathers and they deserve the credit. And maybe we're not talking. Maybe this show doesn't even exist right now, if not for the Young Bucks 6+ years ago. And there is some truth to that. But maybe time has maybe not been so kind to how they are looked at as EVPs. That's the best way I would put it. You could hear the argument from Ospreay. You could hear the what I would call frustration from Swerve. But just beating them is not enough. It's a huge match. I get it. If it goes down, just that on paper is a hell of a match. We've seen, a little bit of Swerve and Ospreay working together. It is fantastic. But to put that together and then for Ospreay to raise the stakes and say, okay, we'll fight you, but if we win, you're not EVPs anymore. There would be a sense of relief if they were to lose. It wouldn't be at the level, I don't think, necessarily of when the Ops beat the Death Riders for the Trios titles on the record-setting Dynamite. There was that feeling in that night when, wow, maybe not quite that feeling. Maybe it is. But I do think there would be this sense of relief amongst AEW fans against those who have dealt with the Young Bucks. And I think there is, I guess what I would say is I think it is a necessary balance of power. But the Young Bucks are still really, really good. That'll be a hell of a match. That is an AEW special. But to put a little extra on it, putting that in perspective, think of how All in Texas can look when the night's over. Hangman beats Moxley. 8 months of a stranglehold on the AEW World Championship comes to an end. That's the big moment people are hoping for. But if you got to add on that the Bucks are now out of power, there would feel this new, not new era, that's not the right way to put it, but maybe almost the next era of AEW. And I'm saying this just from me. This is off of my head. I'm not telling you any of this stuff's going to happen, but maybe that's what it would be. Not to say the Bucks would be in the past or Moxley would be in the past, but maybe it's more a matter of others stepping up to become the new fabric of AEW. Swerve, Ospreay. A lot of people will say that already, and I understand that. But I'm saying maybe AEW gets looked at differently after All in terms of who is leading the way. A lot can change on July 12th. It's 16 days. A lot can change. Let's go back to Dynamite, though, because Kota Ibushi, who we talked about extensively yesterday, was in action. His first singles match ever in AEW, his first match in AEW since late 2023, as Excalibur detailed, and I even talked about yesterday, a litany of injuries that he tried to battle through. Certainly in better shape. Is he all the way back? Maybe that's for you guys to decide.
Golden Star, Kota Ibushi. Trent Beretta. This is his first singles match since May of last year. They had to beat Matthew and Nicholas Jackson.
Oh, and the way Ibushi's neck snapped, historically a dangerous proposition for anybody, but Ibushi's had problems there.
When you're going to wrestle every match like it's your last, which I respect that's going to take some toll on your body, let's be honest.
And the same could be said for Trent Beretta as well. Ibushi slow to get to his feet. Oh, there's Beretta. Ibushi planted on the back of his head. Now Trent.
And the Gotch style.
Look at this. Oh, and Ibushi's got all kinds of issues with his neck.
Diving knee strike to the face. Beretta.
Boom! I think we've seen that knee before.
That's the one you were just talking about.
Oh, and
I think that was. There's a couple. Wow.
But we're not done yet. Hold on.
No time to celebrate, Mr. Ibushi. Okada retreating Ibushi.
So here's the thing. We saw Ibushi show up back over the weekend, and he confronted Okada, went after Okada, got back in the ring. Looked pretty darn good to me for a guy who hasn't wrestled in AEW in over a year, and I believe he will get better. That's just that's the more you're in there and doing it, the more comfortable you'll get. But I definitely saw signs of the Kota Ibushi pre-injury. But what then ended up happening is not, I think, something anybody expected to happen already. Because right after that confrontation, Ibushi's calling for Okada. The match was made official next Wednesday on Dynamite, the 300th episode. The Continental Champion, Kazuchika Okada, at that point, will be less than 2 weeks from his match with Kenny Omega at All In Texas, with both the Continental Championship and the International Championship on the line. We are going to see that. And amazingly, it is the first time that Okada and Kenny will be in the ring against each other one-on-one in 7 years. But before that, we are getting Ibushi and Okada next week on Dynamite 300. They have a history. We'll talk more about that next week. But let me make this very clear. This is not the kind of match Okada would want that far away from fighting Kenny Omega. Let me put this into perspective for you, because it is different, okay? It is definitely different. Okada and Ibushi having this match, and then a couple weeks later, Okada having to fight Kenny Omega. Very, very rare. And it's just where his career has gone for Okada to have two high-profile, high-end opponents in such a short period of time. Now, why is that? I've said this a lot, and very happy to bring some history into this, and for those that don't know, New Japan, where Okada came from, where he might be the greatest ever come out of New Japan. Some would say that. Some would say he's the best big match wrestler New Japan's ever had. Some would put that on Kenny Omega. But the way New Japan, the way their schedule was and how matches happen, this is not like having a weekly television show like a Dynamite or Collision. They would have tours related to, their next big show, pay-per-view-esque quality show, but you would very rarely see singles matches on those shows, and certainly not major ones. Now, those tours would lead up to your big events, A New Beginning or Dominion or King of Pro Wrestling or Wrestle Kingdom or anything like that. That would be where you see your singles matches. So Okada has come from, and I know he's been around for over a year at this point in AEW, but he's coming from basically a career that he wasn't in a position to wrestle singles matches on a regular basis because that's just not how matches were put together in New Japan. The only time that did happen was in the G1, which is why the tournament is so grueling, because you're wrestling all these singles matches. On days you're not wrestling singles matches, you might be in a tag match. And so now for Okada, who, and I think rightly so, is not on AEW TV wrestling every week. I don't have a problem with that. But now he has to wrestle Kota Ibushi and Kenny Omega in the span of what? 25, 11 days, 12 days? If you're a critic of Kazuchika Okada, the next 2 weeks should be interesting. Let's talk a little bit about the Hurt Syndicate, because they took out Jet Speed, and then we would hear from MJF, who was confronted by one Mark Briscoe. Just a note here, MJF had a bit of a back and forth there. As he was talking about being in an all-in qualifier next week. And Mark Briscoe would win that four-way, we'll take a pause here for a second, to earn the number one spot in the Casino Gauntlet. Once again, why is that important? Well, because you get to go in number one, and the match could end at any time, which means you have the best chance of winning if you go in first. And as you can see, we also had something for the women's Casino Gauntlet. Who's going to go in number one there? Let's go back to that right now. Willow Nightingale, Chris Statlander, Thunder Rosa, and the ROH Women's Champion, Athena. Now remember here, something to note, Chris Statlander has been trying to find new common ground with Willow as she has watched everything that has happened between them. And with Willow and the Death Riders, and yet the Death Riders have decided to have a few conversations with Chris Statlander, which has kind of been hanging over everything. And there is Willow looking down the aisle, and there is Marina Shafir. But there's Wheeler Yuta behind her. Four-way, no DQs. Send them off. Watch this pounce. Boom! Period. She got the endorsement by Monty Brown recently, by the way. But however, taking her eye off the ball, watch Statlander here. Get the job done, dumping her former friend on her head, getting the victory, and that will put her in the number one spot. We'll come back to this one here in a second, but that will put her in the number one spot for the Women's Casino Gauntlet. Once again, giving her the best chance of winning. The Casino Gauntlet now, we don't know who else will be in that match. Either one, the men's or the women's, but we know Mark Briscoe will go in number one, and we know that Willow will go in number one in the Women's Casino Gauntlet. Still a couple weeks away. Once again, you never know how many people actually enter that match. You don't know who will enter that match. There is a lovely feeling of surprise and intrigue with the Gauntlet, which turns into just a lot of fun in a short period of time. Let's flip over to the main event right now. Hangman Adam Page and the Beast Mortos. Once again, another tough matchup for someone who has a huge life-changing match coming up at All in Texas. I certainly wouldn't want to be there against Beast Mortos, knowing I have John Moxley in a couple weeks, knowing he's never that far away. That's the problem. Look at Hangman pulling out a poison Ronda. You think he's ready for John Moxley? I do. John Moxley has to be watching this going, is Hangman, did he stay a little longer to Real Mexico? I know they love him there. What's he learning? He knows that one. No one had to teach him that. The buckshot lariat, nobody does it better, even if they try to steal it. Hangman getting the win, and then this happens.
No.
Bucks. Matthew and Nicholas Jackson, the former friends of Hangman Adam Page.
Oh my God.
The EVP trigger.
And here come the Vultures to pick the bones of the #1 contender.
I'm thinking back to the Texas death match between Moxley and Hangman.
Oh, no.
Wait a second.
And that's
Hobbs. Samoa Joe, Katsuyori Shibata, the Ops.
It's Will Ospreay.
Will Ospreay.
What is necessary? What is necessary? I keep saying it over and over again.
Ospreay checking on Hangman. It's a dangerous situation. Hangman might be in really, really bad shape.
And it could have been worse. That's the thing. It could have been worse. But Ospreay and the Ops, you gotta have some support. I don't think Hangman wants any help in winning the AEW World Championship. Jon Moxley will do whatever it takes to keep that title. But you still need the backup. It's just a matter of numbers. We don't have to wait long for much more of AEW because tonight is Collision. Tonight, let's take a look at the card for Collision Night. Adam Cole defending the TNT Championship against Josh Alexander. Cal's family obviously looking at Adam Cole, specifically Kyle Fletcher. We'll see Queen Aminata against Sky Blue. These two have been friends in the past. Queen Aminata's been a hot topic of discussion as of late. Templario and Brody King. What a wild team this was. Look, Don Callis family, Hechicero and Rocky Romero. And in addition to that, as we're still here with you on Bleacher Report, I believe. FTR has got an issue with the Outrunners. We'll hear from them tonight. Look at this one. Nick Wayne and Christian Cage, not Nick Gage, but Nick Wayne and Christian Cage, who have set their sights on being the first father-son tag team champions, will take on another team looking for tag team gold, Brian Keith and Big Bill. And if you like Kyle's, I have a match for you. Kyle O'Reilly, well, that's Kyle Fletcher, if I point that way, of the Don Callis family. Kyle O'Reilly of the Paragon, 1-on-1. The Callis family, the Paragon issues continue. We'll see it in this match. We will see it when Adam Cole faces Josh Alexander. And it's a special night tonight for Collision, as Toni Storm would say, 8/7 Central tonight. Watch it on TNT, stream it on Max. And as always, I'll be back on Monday and every Monday through Thursday to talk about it even more. So join me for that. Thank you for being with me. This is the best place to find me, but keep an eye on AEW programming and other places that might be in my bio. Not co-opted, though. All right, I'm done for the day, and I'll be back on Friday. I'm actually be back on Monday. Tomorrow, more Wrestling Daily with the guys, but I'll be back on Monday to talk about pro wrestling even more. Right here on Wrestling Daily. Have a great day, everybody.